Welcome to the 2025 Air Force Sergeants Association Professional Development Seminar. I am Todd Simmons, Chief Master Sergeant, retired after 25 years of serving in the United States Air Force. I want to thank Columbia Southern University for sponsoring this segment of the Professional Airmen Symposium that's going on today. I have a special guest to round out what we are calling our Mission Command Day. We've had leaders that you have already signed up for, from General Breedlove, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander, to former SEAC Colon Lopez. You've seen, warriors like Goody, Dustin Goodwin, and you've seen people like Clinton Boyd. You've seen all kind of leaders who have talked about this conversation around Mission Command today. But I will tell you, I'm going to introduce my friend here in a second, and not only my friend, but my mentor, and she'll probably smile when I say that, but someone I have looked up to for so many years, and I can credit with probably the leader that I became in security forces. But before we get into that conversation, I want to remind you that the challenges that that's faced ahead for our airmen and our guardians are immense challenges. And what our goal is today, throughout today, the sessions that you may have heard or you will continue to hear that will be placed on YouTube after this event, that we want to continue to take nuggets from these leaders. These are leaders who have led probably a combined 400 years of leadership over so many different theaters, so many different disciplines and services. So without further, I want to introduce Chief Master Sergeant, retired Jennifer Kersey. So Jennifer Kersey served in the United States Air Force as a defender, and she ended her career as the command chief for 9th Air Expeditionary Task Force, Levant, Southwest Asia. I would tell you, legendary defender. When I say legendary, I don't say that word in small letters. Legendary defender in all caps, who's led at all levels and have led brave, boldly, and resilient from the day I've ever met her. So without further ado, Jennifer, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule and continuing to serve airmen and guardians to have this last leadership nugget, session that we were having with senior leaders, and I thought no one fit in for you to bring in all this into one perspective of what we're talking about where we're going to head with our airmen and guardians in form of Mission Command. So welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity. It's good to see you as always.
Absolutely. So I'm going to dive right in. I gave you an intro like you were about to do an ALS graduation. I think you deserve the best intro that we probably can give you, but I want you to go ahead, for folks who don't know you or folks who are being reintroduced to you right now after retirement. Just give us a couple of minutes on Jennifer Kersey, your career history, and kind of leading up to today.
Okay, well, sure. Thanks. You pretty much covered, the highlights. I, spent the best years of my career as a security policeman. I grew up in law enforcement, did a little bit of nuclear security, jumped in and out of some admin jobs, praise to our S1 types, our admin types, because we know that we ain't getting paid and we ain't getting fed. We're not getting promoted without our admin support folks. So I had an opportunity to do a little bit of that as well, which definitely was a springboard for me to be a successful senior NCO. Loved my time in the Air Force, loved my time as a defender chief, and given the opportunity to lead at the strategic level was also very memorable. And I'm excited to share some of that background with you today. After I retired, I taught at the Citadel for a couple of years. I taught leadership and ethics. Loved my time with the cadets. Did a little consulting work with security forces. And then I have recently been a consultant and instructor for the Civilian Development and Leadership School at Air University. Also doing some consulting for the Army in counter-Suez operations, which gets right down into the nitty-gritty for me. I love getting back and talking about Mission Command. Specifically, we've been doing a lot of talk about what's going on in Ukraine and how diplomacy has shifted with this administration. So Mission Command in action is really at the heart of what I love to do.
Well, thank you for that, Jennifer. I mean, like I said, that you said I covered everything. I only covered, probably about that much of what you do, and you continue to stay busy and so much relevancy even as you take the uniform off. But I want to get right into it. I know you have led, as a defender in Afghanistan. You have led throughout, ACC Air Combat Command for several years at the tip of the spear when we was involved in multiple conflicts, and even me sitting over in absent multiple times when you were in theater, when you were at the tip of the spear leading security forces, or leading as a command chief at night. But I want to go right into, how did you go about building trust across such a diverse force of over 13,000 people, coalition partners, and all of that? What persistent actions reinforce that trust in high pressure moments? Because without our allies, we go nowhere. So how did you approach that from a strategic leader perspective, and making sure that was understood throughout your partners and all these folks that you led at all these different levels?
Some of it's a little bit funny. We have to laugh at ourselves sometimes, but in the wars that we have fought in the past, from call it 1990 to 2020, 2022, 23, where we were pulling out of Afghanistan. Our senior partners were, oftentimes, Army-led operations. And so being able to leverage the support from our joint partners, and having the confidence and leveraging the education that we get, I will offer you that, having worked with all 4 joint services, culminating in almost 34 years of service, we are the most educated service in regards to professional development. And so we talk a lot about joint operations, and it's up to us to use that education that the Air Force and the Space Force invests in us, to be able to communicate to our joint and allied partners how to support air, and how to win through air and air support. And that education and communication is really, really important to building that trust. And other than that, just really, diving into the human side of things. I think that we don't talk enough about that, but reaching out to other services and our allied forces as well, trying to understand what their strengths are, leveraging a little bit of humility in recognizing how our joint and allied partners can make us stronger and better in whatever tasks that we're executing.
Yeah, I want to pull that thread a little bit, because something I always remember watching you, and I don't want to date either one of us, but watching you as a senior NCO coming up the ranks, and watching how the first time I had the opportunity to sit in a room when I made chief in security forces, and see you around the chief's table of MAGCOM chiefs, and saw how you always operated. You're a connector, but you are a connector with high accountability skills. And I think, and I'll explain that to people as, it's okay to be a leader who has extremely high accountability, but also be a person that people will come to and tell anything to, and be, and be the, it goes back to that conversation about leaders know we know leaders are leaders when people don't want to disappoint them. Yeah. But and I've never saw you, even with a high level of accountability, no one fears you. They just don't want to let you down. And in that level of healthy balance. So when you talk about the human side, you hear a lot of back and forth. And I saw the pictures that you sent us for everyone who's listening and looking at this. She sent us a series of pictures, and all of the pictures, probably 90% of the pictures that I was looking through, they all had you with someone else, connecting with another person. And I know you have thousands of pictures, but just so those to be the natural instinct for you to go to at my points of memory, and the points that I see that's on the, that's the best points, is when I'm connecting with another. It was joint partners, coalition partners, and our airmen in the theater. So how important, I want to just get, how important do you think that it is for the Department of the Air Forces and the Department of the Defense's refocus on readiness, which is all important, and we've all lived that. How important do you think it is, from your experiences, to make sure the human dynamic doesn't leave? that readiness, there's also that part of being a compassionate, accountable, high level, high performing leader.
Yeah, I love that. And thank you. That very much is a compliment. I wasn't always able to take that compliment, but, reflecting and having gone through some tough things, with senior leaders has really helped me to those characteristics. So thank you very much for that. At the heart of it, right? Every small task has its purpose. We all want to be our airmen and guardians, our soldiers. We all want to be part of something. We want to collaborate. We want to do well. We want to excel. And as a senior leader, being able to get out there and make a connection to those folks that are at the tip of the spear, that are doing the tactical level work, being able to go kneecap to kneecap, eyeball to eyeball, to make sure that they understand. Our officers, when we talk about mission command, and then you talk about mission command in action, right? Making the connection between what our strategic leaders do, what commanders and our senior civilians and officers do, they set the intent and the vision for us. They give us the opportunity and the money to be trained and developed, right? What our airmen and guardians like and how they feel connected to us is through that realistic training, the thoughtfulness that we put into our readiness training, that it's not just, let's just get out there and do this, but that we are investing in the right type of training and development. That means that we need to ask them what they need. We don't have all the answers. We lead by example. We attempt to be good communicators and give good feedback. But at the end of the day, you're making that connection with those young folks and those young aspiring leaders by actually asking them what they need from us regarding training, regarding development, regarding resiliency. We can say that we walked a few miles, right? It's easy to say, oh, well, you haven't walked a mile in my shoes, but they haven't. I would offer you, that when we first came in and we were talking to some Vietnam vets, we were at, Cold War. We were Cold War veterans, doing nothing but training every day. We didn't know Iraq and Afghanistan was going to happen, right? And I would offer you the senior leaders in our Air Force, in our Department of Defense. I don't ever remember being asked what it was going to be like and what I needed for resourcing, manpower, training, and development out on the line, out in the field. And I think that that's what I value, is making that connection, being humble enough to get out of my seat and to be able to go connect to airmen, see what they need, and then bring that back to my boss, who has the opportunity to press the button on manpower and resourcing.
Excellent point, Jennifer. If any one of you have seen or heard of Jennifer Kersey or Google Jennifer Kersey, you'll know that she's led in all dynamic theaters all over, from the tactical to the strategic standpoint. And I want to pull the thread on that a little bit, as you have led in some of the most dynamic theaters. And we kind of talked about mentorship a little bit. And I kind of alluded to how you built relationships, mentorship, and sustaining readiness and resilience. How are some tactics? Because, today, I think that conversation is something I have with a lot of leaders still today, is building that connective tissue. Even if it's triads or it's senior NCOs with teams, like you said, you're training every day with people in peacetime that you don't know you might go to war in the next 10 seconds with. And it's not necessarily might be war. Sometimes I do a lot of the case studies on the 2011 Frankfurt attack, that those airmen did not know that war was going to be at their doorstep at an international airport that is deemed safe every day of the week. So I said, readiness is about building those relationships. And we had Goody on earlier today in his session. And one of the things that Goody talked about with his small team at FOB Fenty is the relationship and mentorship that they built, the connected tissue that they built every day from the time they were assigned as a team and the time that they went to RTC, the time they got on the ground. They just They continued to train as they were going to fight, and they trusted each other. How do you tell senior NCOs today to build that type of relationship in their teams today?
So, couple cliche things that I will say. First of all, you can't surge trust, right? There's been books written about that. We have some general officers that have used that term, in their speeches. At the end of the day, it really does come down to the effort and energy that you are willing to put into your people. It is not about you. It is not about your growth, your opportunity, where you need to be, your next job. It is literally about, what do your airmen and guardians need right now? And they need you to start building trust from the moment that you onboard their team. I think one of my favorite kind of mentorship and connectivity for successful teams. One of my best memories is at Bagram in 2010. We had a squadron, believe it or not, that was about 1,100 people. I had guard, reserve, active duty, coalition, joint, host nation. We had 1,100 people to defend that air base, the biggest air base in Afghanistan, with a NATO mission, both offensive and defensive. And I could not have done it if I had not stepped outside of my comfort zone and went to my guardsmen, my reservists, and my active duty folks and said, hey, we need to build relationships, because we don't really recognize and understand the strengths that each one of our components brings to this. And after I broke my active duty team up and broke my guard brothers up and took the IMAs and the reservists and I sprinkled them all together, it made them very uncomfortable. But what it did was it leveraged talent. It leveraged opportunity, whereas other folks may not have had those things before. I gave them homework to do. Yes, were we actively at war and fighting the bad guys? We sure were. But I gave the senior NCOs and junior CGOs homework to do in regards to learning about, the cultural limitations and standards of our joint and host nation forces that we were standing alongside the perimeter with, that we were going out on outside the wire missions with. And so being able to recognize that we sometimes have to be critical thinkers in doing things a little bit different that make people a little bit uncomfortable. Also figuring out people's strengths and weaknesses, not just at the core, but at the team level. And then also just that mutual respect. You have to breed mutual respect. You can't teach people how to care, but I would offer you the most successful officers and senior NCOs that I worked with, they just genuinely and authentically cared about leveraging the human aspect to execute the mission.
That's excellent. Man, I miss these conversations. I'm so glad this is recorded, because I'm gonna play it back to my own development. That was excellent. Just all of this is timeless. To everyone who's listening to this, we can fast forward to 2045, and this will be a leadership lesson that's timeless in 2045 for young airmen, young guardians, young soldiers, sailors, Marines, everyone. And it's the basics. I was told, when I go out and I talk to leaders today, and even if it's industry, corporate, or military, the basic block and tackling of leadership, if you can master that, anything else is possible. And that basic block and tackling starts with caring about people and understanding and being authentic to who you are. So let's go to that thread a little bit. Looking back as we round this session out, looking back, what was that leadership moment that changed your perspective, right? That changed your perspective, and where Mission Command or you personally as Chief Kersey was challenged, or Jennifer Kersey challenged your assumptions or forced you to grow as a senior enlisted leader. What's that moment that you think is a learning moment from folks that they can go, yeah, as leaders, we have reflection and personal growth also?
Yeah. So I'll try to make this quick, because I had a couple things that I wanted to talk to you guys about. So reputation matters, right? We have one job. We need to do the right thing and tell the truth every time. And that's just how it goes. You build a foundation and you build your reputation like that. And so as you PCS from installation to installation or to mission, even if you cross train or you go do a special duty, your reputation, that's your hallmark. That is who you are, and people will know you. And so I offer that as a springboard to talk to you about, mission command, how officers can leverage senior NCOs to do the right thing, and how senior NCOs can build trust with their junior NCOs to execute exceptional historical missions. My boss at the time in Afghanistan, in the 2000s, was a gentleman by the name of Colonel Eric Runquist, just an academic, a warfighter, just amazing, right? His reputation working on the joint staff 5, 6, 7, 8 years prior to our deployment was money when we got into theater, and our boss was General Deal, who he had worked with prior on the joint staff. Okay, so relationships matter and reputation matters. So when I had, and bear with me here, when I had 2 tech sergeants and a lieutenant colonel from the Rhode Island National Guard, tech sergeant from the Tennessee Guard, and an active duty tech sergeant came to me and said, "Hey, we are sick of getting our ass handed to us from the enemy." We sat in the DFAT, and these 2 tech sergeants and this lieutenant colonel, all from different places, different components, sat down, and on a napkin, we drew out a tactical plan to change the way we were going to defend our air base. I took that because I trusted those NCOs and I heard them out. And it took a week and a half. We went through drill after drill. We whiteboarded it. I brought some officers in, talked to some CGOs about the NCO's idea. The lieutenant colonel had to redeploy, but I give him credit for this. But I took their idea and I went back to Colonel Runquist, the group commander who was in charge of base defense. And I said, "Hey, sir, I trust these young men and women. I think we can do it. We have the money, we have the manpower, and we have the weapon systems. Would you be willing to speak to General Deal about this?" He brought it to General Deal. Handshake. General Deal said, "I want you guys to be doing rehearsals. I want, after action reports. I want to make sure that the C2 is good. I want the Army involved from the air. I want space involved." Space was very new at the time, right? So we took those strategic ideas, that tactical expertise from different components. We surged trust in battle based on a foundation of a solid reputation. And that is an amazing example of mission command in action.
Jennifer, that is such a solid example. When you mentioned General Deal in Afghanistan and how mission command and how the trust of Colonel Rehnquist from a previous relationship, led to you changing such a dynamic thing in theater, it just brought me back to a memory of Colonel Deal when I was a brand new master sergeant and I was selected to come to OSAN to start the first human trafficking task force, and walking into his office and, me being a brand new senior NCO, and this is the wing commander. And I recently just graduated from the FBI National Academy, and said, "We brought you here to be a part of the solution to this. And that's why you were selected to come to OSAN." And I just, my commander, my squadron commander sitting there, who we both know, Colonel Mickle, and putting the trust in me from the wing commander to the squadron commander to execute for a year. That taught me exactly what mission command was about, with intent.
I love that. That's another great example of, some stuff that we do, in garrison as well. And if you followed that mission set for years after, Todd, that became another one of our core functions in security forces. But yeah, absolutely. Don't ever underestimate, the value of your reputation. Years later, don't ever undervalue the opportunity for you to be that connector to something good and something great. And then the follow up to that is we ended up executing the outside the wire missions out to 24 kilometers, owned that area, and we absolutely made an effect on offensive and defensive operations.
No, thank you. That was an excellent, excellent kind of, I would call it a mini case study as as we ended it. So I want to ask you one last question and give the floor to you in this last question. So we have today's emerging leaders. You had an opportunity to continue training cadets. I know both of us, have been really fortunate to still be around the military once we hung up our boots. And I know you've done it from strategic all the way down to the tactical cadet level and still continue to give back today. But as you hung up your legendary boots and your legendary career, and the bleachers look different, right? When you're on this side, if Jennifer Kersey had to sum everything up at this point at 34 plus years around the government and the military, if you had a group of senior NCOs, guardians, airmen in front of you right now, what would that message be before you drop the mic?
So this can apply to anybody in any AFSC, okay? Because I truly, truly believe in how well we all complement each other across the Air and Space Force. And you could apply what I'm about to share with you across the military. This one was really hard for me. I would offer you the lessons that I learned from, call them poor leaders or leaders that had some ethical dilemmas. Those where I saw my biggest growth because it challenged me, right? You never want to have a senior NCO or a chief or a senior officer, even a general officer, challenge you ethically. Put you in that position. I don't care if you are a senior airman or a command chief. It is all about how you carry and conduct yourself. It matters. And it matters because, again, when you talk about trust and you talk about executing the mission, you need to be trusted both ethically and when you're executing your daily mission. I don't care if you're in garrison or if you're in the Ukraine, supporting Poland. The other thing is helping to recognize that it's paramount for us to make sure that our young folks understand the big picture. We are supposed to be translating that for him so that they understand how to be culturally aware, how to be critical thinkers, how to recognize and grow in their emotional intelligence so that they can be, brave enough to be, when you are challenged with those ethical dilemmas, to be able to always do the right thing and have a little bit of humility. I think that that's really, really important. We don't all have all the answers. We need each other.
No, you said it, and I heard the mic drop. So I will tell you, Chief Master Sergeant retired Jennifer Kersey, because I have to call you that one last time. I will tell you, you have no idea. You have dropped about 10 nuggets and 15 gems in this short amount of time. And it just reemphasized, we've not seen each other in person in a while. And most of our communication has been over text. And it's the first time I've actually heard your voice in quite a bit. And I will tell you, just reemphasize that you're still, I wanted to do the kind of the WWE chant, but no, this is a serious moment, like still, but no, you're still one of the most relevant, capable, respected leaders that I have ever met in my entire career. And just what you just said for the last 40 minutes just reemphasizes what you have done for so many of us, the spoken and the unspoken ones. And the last bit of that message, when you said how you carry yourself, before you ever spoke a word, it was us watching you. And so many people have watched you. So I just want to thank you. For me, there was no doubt. Thank you for doing this, because when we were trying to put this together and make it relevant, I teach soft skills or human-centric leadership. But what I wanted to do when Columbia Southern University said, we're going to take a day for the virtual AFSA conference, I wanted to bring in leaders that I know their voices will make a difference. There's a different message from our senior most leaders who spoke, and there's a definite different message that you just delivered right there, that every tactical level airman that's sitting in anywhere, a cubicle to a foxhole, they should be able to take something away and said, I understand a little bit better, not only what mission command means, but I know how that applies to me. And I know how that applies to me, especially as a young senior NCO. So I'm so glad this is recorded by the amazing people that's going to, record this and put it on platforms. And I'm just happy that people are going to be able to experience what people like me and probably another 300-400 defenders who you have created as leaders in the Air Force have been experiencing for probably 35 plus years now. So thank you for still being Jennifer Kersey, and thank you for being you. Thank you for being the leader we all need, regardless of the circumstances. So thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for doing this and for continuing to stay very, very engaged in the things that are important to our force.
Thank you, and you too. And I hope to see you soon.
I'll see you soon, my friend.